angry fist shaking at Nick Miller. I thought we were
Are
getting
you the guy who, like, shouts at Ferris Bueller? Like, what?
Apparently, that's what I'm turning into in my old age. I see arrows on the Titan mirror. Let's see. Oh, looks like Director Rob. You know, Rob, this upgrade from intern can be very temporary if I keep getting lied to by you. We are going to see the Demir inverter mirror.
Whoa!
Unbelievable. You see what I deal with here, Emma? You see what I deal with?
You're harassing employees of Star City Games.
Are you saying I don't have the unilateral capacity to just demote people at will?
I don't even know what you just said.
Okay. Me neither. That's how we roll here.
So one of the interesting things that some players have started doing in the mirror is bringing in Legion's End, which is something that sounds like it would normally only be good against, say, an aggressive strategy like mono black aggro or red. But tagging Jace Friend's Prodigy or Thassa's Oracle can be absolutely game-breaking, especially if you get an extra copy of it.
Looking over deck list now. Kevin Jones list stock. I would put that out as a hallmark of Kevin Jones' deck building. He doesn't really take a ton of risks in his list. He just builds very well, very cleanly, and looks to outplay his opponents.
I'm a big fan of that school of thought. You don't have to always get wins on the deck list sheet if you can just play the cards well, and that's what he leans into. Jones is incredible, one of the big mainstays on the SCG tour.
Oh, yeah, for years and years. Kevin Jones and I battled locally. We're both from the same neck of the woods originally, so we played at virtually every tournament ever. He knows what I'm about to say next. I've never lost to him, just putting that out there.
Do you really want to start bringing up people that have never lost in matches involving you?
Yeah, because it's only Kevin Jones. There's nobody else on the planet I can say that about.
Oh, yeah, no, who was it? Someone that beat you in twice in the same invitational? Was that? Oh my God!
I actually
did that.
I don't recall that. No, I don't have any memory of that whatsoever.
Luckily, one of them was even a camera match.
This seems fabricated, and you can put anything on camera these days. CGI, special effects.
I mean,
all in the realm of possibility.
Look, all I'm saying is it was a walloping.
It was kind of a walloping.
Both times.
Both times, yep. Yeah, across multiple formats. Why just beat me in one format when you could beat me in every format?
I got to tell you, beating Karn the Great Creator online several turns with Dredge feels real nice.
I believe that.
I've talked about it a lot since then, and now I get to do it here.
There's also the spot, too. So we both played the Invitational. You beat me twice in it. Then the next day, we went to play the Legacy event for Power, and we were both like 5-0 at some point, and I'm like, she's going to beat me again. She's going to beat me across three tournaments. Thankfully, I dodged you because you would have just smashed me into the ground. Very lucky on my part.
All right, so how about Thoughtseize is just shredding both people's hands here for a few turns.
Yeah, we're going to play a low resource game.
Both players trying to get a little bit of traction, just get some card advantage together. And it's an interesting dynamic where Edgar knows that Kevin has a sensor, which kind of bottlenecks his mana in a lot of ways.
Right. And the options are already getting thin for both players. It only takes one dig through time to rebuild very effectively. Here's an opt from Jones. Looks like that sensor's in the bin. I don't know if that was a cycle from Jones.
It's likely just cycled it, judging by how Edgar had played up to this point, turn 2 Thoughtseize into turn 3 Thoughtseize and so on.
Card that loses its value very quickly, but you always got that cycle in your pocket.
It feels a lot like the days of this format where if you see your opponent cycle a sensor, it's kind of on your radar the rest of the match and impacts the way that you have to play against them.
Great point. Inverter deck cantripping very effectively now for Edgar Magalhaes. Sculpting his hand, trying to get to the place where he can start to try and win the game. There is that sensor being cycled.
Both players just spinning their wheels a bunch, kind of digging for something that matters.
How long can we expect this phase of the game to continue?
It's hard to
Is there
say.
something they're looking for specifically?
So at this point, just trying to get together the inverter combo is a really big deal. Dig through time would be very nice at this point. There's also a point where you kind of need to try to combo with Jace rather than with Thassa's Oracle, because both players have so many fatal pushes that the Thassa's Oracle is just going to die with its trigger on the stack. So unless you have a literally empty library, it's just not going to happen.
That's a tall ask.
Big draw from Edgar here. Looks like he picked up a copy of Dig Through Time.
Okay.
That's going to empty some of his graveyard to make later inverters better. And it just being a draw 2 good cards is huge, and what feels kind of like a control mirror in a lot of ways.
Yeah, allows Edgar to start sculpting a hand. And there you see, Dig Through Time. Certainly one of the powerhouses still standing here in the Pioneer format. Having had a chance to look over these deck lists now, you see anything that sets these two players apart on deck construction axes? Any real edge that either player is garnering?
Not a ton, really. Most of the main board is pretty similar. Kevin Jones having access to Supreme Will, Edgar having 2 copies of Supreme Will, gives you a little bit more counter magic. But other than that, most of what's going on is pretty similar.
I see Jones with a couple extra copies of Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. That could prove useful if he's able to start generating some card advantage with that. Oh, never mind. 3 apiece, both players. They're squared up there.
Yeah, a big difference that I see here is mostly in the sideboard. We see Jones leaning into the Scarab God and Liliana Last Hope, whereas Edgar is just really high on Pack Rat from the looks of things.
And look at this hand that Jones has found with this Thoughtseize. Some good options here from Edgar.
In a lot of ways, because Fatal Push is so bad game 1, this really just feels like Edgar having a small hand, even though he has several cards.
Right.
And we see he has Inverter plus Fatal Push.
Also has a graveyard, though.
Right. That being said, there is certainly a point where, because it is just a bunch of cantrips and a Jace, you can almost just Inverter, flip your graveyard into your library, or make it your library, and then the next turn just plan to chain a cantrip into a Jace and win that way. The risky thing about this combo deck in particular is, unlike something like Splinter Twin, where if they just say dismember your Deceiver Exarch and you go about your day, with this, if your combo fizzles halfway through, you literally lose the game.
Right. That's one of the reasons I actually am a fan of this combo deck existing. I think there's an element of risk-reward. There's interesting decisions to be made.
Picking your spots in this kind of deck is an incredibly hard skill to master.
Sure.
So one of the things you can do with Tyrant Scorn that's actually pretty interesting is you can try to create a situation where if Edgar didn't have this many fatal pushes or taps low and puts the shields down from them, you can Inverter and then maybe set up a situation where you Thassa's Oracle, Edgar goes to kill it, and you return your own Thassa's Oracle to your hand and then recast it to try and get the trigger again that way.
Sure.
It's a little tricksy, and it doesn't come up very much, especially with the texture of Edgar's hand, where you see a pile of black removal spells. But it is one of the nice things with that card being not just a removal spell.
Appreciate that little bit of extra versatility from Tyrant Scorn. How about another Dig Through Time from Edgar Magalhaes? Leaving just Jace in the bin.
Good one to leave.
Yeah. And that is going to resolve. And what kind of backup can Edgar find for a combo attempt?
And it looks like here the plan may be something to the effect of Inverter, cast a Thassa's Oracle, and then next turn, assuming it dies, cast your other Thassa's Oracle, and then if it dies, cast your Jace.
Sounds pretty good to me. A lot of layers of redundancy.
All right, you have to answer my combo 3 times in one untap step. Good luck.
Got a couple of results from our other fisticuffs. Modern, all tied up, a game apiece. Dominic Harvey versus Matt Dilks in the Amulet Titan Mirror. That one's mostly just who went first, who drew better. We've seen enough Amulet Titan Mirrors here on the SCG Tour to know how that goes. But headed to a deciding game 3, and over in the Teamer Reclamation Mirror, Will Pulliam up a game over Harlan Fearer.
Ooh, here we go.
And Kevin Jones going to make a run at it. How does the Yu-Gi-Oh meme go? I know you know what I'm talking about.
What? I'm not just burying you right now.
Goodness, I can't believe there's a Yu-Gi-Oh meme. Actually, I think it was Edgar who posted it. It's something from an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Oh, jeez.
Now our graveyards, our hands are our graveyards or something.
Oh, jeez. It's Seto. Oh, God. Here's the worst part. All right, let me hit you with the worst part. Is I know the episode it's from.
Okay.
It is literally Bakura using the card Exchange of the Spirit while on top of the Dual City Blimp during the quarterfinals.
Yeah, see, this is an incredible amount of information. All not the meme I'm referring to, though. It's unbelievable you know all of these things.
The cards in our graveyards will swap with our decks.
Right.
There we go. Nailed it. Had it the whole way.
That is the meme I'm referring to. And now it has occurred in real life.
I had to rebuild the episode in my head, okay?
Okay. Inverter of Truth has come down and put together a weird little library.
Love a weird little library.
It's just strange magic. Strange times. Edgar going to cast a fair Thassa's Oracle. Just trying to get a little card selection from it.
This Inverter is just going to beat down.
3-turn clock.
Unless, so Edgar has a line here where he can Fatal Push his own Thassa's Oracle.
And then burn the second Fatal Push?
Right,
Wow.
on the Inverter of Truth. 16 is not much life.
No?
And this is a spot where it feels like Jones is identified. He's not winning with the combo. Right, he just shuffled a bunch of interactive spells back into his deck and is now planning to use that to his advantage. You say, all right, I have a 6/6, a stacked library, and a dream.
Let's see if Kevin Jones can convert that to a W. Here come those Inverter beatdowns. Edgar going to fall to 10. Opt from Jones. Looks like Jones also has an Oracle in hand.
And the nice thing about this opt, so I mentioned before how Jones could look to Tyrant Scorn to save one of his creatures from a removal spell. This is actually opening up that avenue by putting cards back in his library to save his Inverter of Truth.
Here's Thoughtseize from Jones. Going to go ahead and take a redundant copy of Thassa's Oracle. Now Magalhaes left with a handful of Fatal Pushes. But drawing a selected card on this turn. What is it? Inverter of Truth. Jones with Tyrant Scorn at the ready. Not quite sure what the second card is.
Edgar's library about to literally be 50% I win buttons.
I like those odds.
Love a button that says you win. Love 50% to draw it. They're good numbers, all in all.
And it looks like Jones going to let it resolve. Now, what's Edgar up to?
Well, the hand is just fatal pushes. It's hard to imagine there's much else to do here.
Does have a blocker available now for the opposing Inverter of Truth.
That's the nice thing about Inverter is its ability is basically a drawback. It's not in the context of this combo deck, but the idea is you have to wait a long time to cast it and so on.
Right.
So it is just a 6/6 flying creature, which, you know, blocks the other 6/6 flying creature pretty well.
Yeah. An acceptable trade for sure. Time for blocks. Edgar says half my deck wins. How about yours? Takes a draw. Beat down. Thassa's Oracle getting into the red zone. Wants to tangle a bit with Jones.
These are some bold attacks with Thassa's Oracle. Opponent at 11. 3 cards in your library.
You never know when it's going to matter. Just never know.
I think Bon Jovi actually wrote a song about this.
It's my life.
You know. You got it. You did it, Brian.
Wanted Dead or Alive. Or is it just called Dead or Alive?
Who knows, really?
Bon Jovi knows.
Does he?
Well, if anyone does. Here's a Thoughtseize from Jones. Think that's going to take an Inverter of Truth. And now the library, 66.6% I wins. Edgar takes a draw. Thassa's Oracle is the play. Jones says, yup, that's good enough. And now we're going to scoop him up. Head out to a game 2. Edgar Magalhaes takes down game 1 of the Dimir Inverter Mirror. That's a weird one, Emma.
Yeah, that game was both players shredding each other's hands, one player drawing 2 dig through times, and winning.
Just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. Why don't we head to the sideboards, talk about how these players are going to shift in these post-board games, because I think this is the real break point. Who has a better plan for the mirror? Let's start over on Jones's side. You see 3 Mystical Dispute, 3 Cry of the Carnarium, 2 Ashiok, Nightmare Weaver, 2 Kalidas, Trader of Get, 2 Legion's End, a Liliana the Last Hope, a Scarab God, and finally 1 Noxious Grasp. Emma, number 1, what do you think about Kevin's sideboard and how it's positioned in the mirror? Number 2, what do you want to do in his seat?
I think it's firmly fine. A lot of the things here, either stock or unexciting. Mystical Dispute, very, very good against the pile of blue card stack. Ashiok Nightmare Weaver is going to be one of your premier threats because these decks are not actually very good at answering Planeswalkers. This is why we've seen a surge in cards like Gideon of the Trials to try and just give yourself this Platinum Angel emblem that the combo deck can't actually answer very effectively. Legion's End is one that we were talking about a little bit earlier, where that card ends up lining well against Pack Rat, Jace Friend's Prodigy, and Thassa's Oracle. So I could see those coming in if Kevin is wanting to make sure he levels what Edgar is able to bring to the table. And then Liliana and Scarab God are fine at fair games if you just don't think the combo avenue is on the table and you want to pivot into being more of a control deck.
Why don't we talk about what Edgar's got going on? You see on his side 4 Mystical Dispute, brings the full play set.
Love it.
3 Pack Rat.
Always Pack a Rat.
Pack Rat, something interesting here in this mirror?
Yeah, so the nice thing about it is it can't be tagged by Mystical Dispute, which is one of the big issues with a lot of the good threats in Dimir, is a lot of them do just get tagged for 1 mana, be it Ashiok, Thief of Sanity, those kinds of cards all look very good on paper, but then ultimately just get snagged for 1 mana, which makes you want to lean into Pack Rat a little bit more. Obviously, there's the point where it is soft to Legion's End, but you don't have to go in too far on Pack Rat in order to end up winning with it.
Makes sense to me. Rest of the sideboard, 2 Cry of the Carnarium, 1 Legion's End, 1 Noxious Grasp, a Cast Down, Infernal Reckoning, Kalidas Trader of Get, and finally 1 Graph Digger's Cage. Anything else you're interested in?
So Legion's End is one I would end up bringing in just on the back of assuming that Jones would have good targets for it outside of Thassa's Oracle. It wouldn't end up working it out because we have full information and know that that's not something you want to do. But that's one I can see here. For the most part, I don't think he's looking to bring in much more than those pack rats, though.
Okay.
And the Mystical Disputes, of course.
All right, here's what I want to do right now, Emma. We set up this match. I want to go to Standard, though, just in case this actually determines the match. If Will Pulliam is able to take down this game, that will be it. So we'll hold our folks in the Dimir Inverter Mirror for a little while. We'll check in with this Teamer Reclamation Mirror and see if Will Pulliam is just able to put this one away for his team, because Matthew Dilks did take down the Amulet Titan Mirror 2-1 over Dominic Harvey.
Well, it looks like there's been an ambush here on Führer's side.
A little bit of wolf action. And a nice shift for this mirror match.
Untapping with Night Pack Ambusher is a huge game.
Yeah, feels good. Harlan able to attack freely. No second green mana over on Will's side.
And this shows the strength of this card in a flash mirror in particular.
Yes, this is, I'm willing to say very firmly, at least for this tournament, this was the correct sideboard package for this deck. It's a big, big shift in game plan. A lot of benefit from playing Night Pack Ambusher. Wolf token has been made.
That's an old school.
Old school, yeah. Looks like we're about ready for a fresh wolf. Unfortunately, Emma's token is already spoken for, but one of our listeners wants to win the Invitational. You could be the next wolf.
You know, you just like, no one's making you bring that up. Like, it is just, you cannot bring it up. Like, that is just allowed. You can just, it's a thing you can do.
My conscience won't let me let it lie, Emma.
Oh, okay.
Here's Niv Mizzet Perun? I've never known how to say that word. I'm not going to start now. And it doesn't matter. Aethergust at the ready.
Who would win? One giant dragon or one gusty boy?
Or a gust of wind. A light breeze. Looks like light breeze on the scoreboard. Can Harlan keep the light breeze train rolling? How long will we be able to deny this Niv for?
You know, with a hit like that.
May not matter.
Yeah. Pulliam's pretty close to just dead on the battlefield.
Well, if it was our best play on the last turn, it's our best play on this turn. Looks like Thassa's intervention in response. Going to go find 2 fresh cards. Is Harlan. A lot of damage headed Will's way, but we've all untapped with a Niv Mizzet before.
Have we?
I hope so. I hope you have had that joy in your life, Emma. You deserve it. You deserve to live that life at least once.
I don't think I actually have before.
You're kidding me. Never in your life you've untapped with a Niv?
The thing is when I played Wilderness Reclamation, I was playing Improbable Alliance as my kill condition.
Okay.
So, no. Actually, I don't think I've ever played a Niv Mizzet before. Not that Niv Mizzet.
What about if we go back in time, like pre-even Reclamation decks? I mean, where was Niv played before that when it first showed up?
Good question. I was playing Vivian.
That's a good call. Very smart of you. Jeskai Control. Never picked up Jeskai Control?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that might have been correct, but you're going to see the joy of someone who gets to untap with Niv Mizzet now, as Will Pulliam looks to be taking the turn back. Harlan was able to deploy an Uro.
5 life is not much.
It isn't. It's going to have to be a big turn. But Niv can do a lot.
That's true. We see a copy of Expansion Explosion in Pulliam's hand, and he has the ability to basically build the world's best Arc Lightning here.
Yeah, maybe get a nice little copied spell along the way if that's the path you want to go down. A lot of options for Pulliam here. Step 1. Ether Gust. Nightpack Ambusher going to head somewhere. We'll figure out where soon. 1 damage onto that wolf. Follow up. Yeah, it's going to be a copy on the Gust. It's going to target Uro and do a 2nd damage to the wolf. Now do you see the unfettered joy that comes with untapping with Niv Mizzet on the battlefield?
Gotta level with you. This really just feels like Aether Gust is the power card to me.
That's kind of true. But
it's like, oh yeah, we're spending 4 mana to answer 11 or something.
Yeah, that's a good swing. But the next turn, Emma, that next turn, it's going to be jaw-dropping. So many cards in hand, so many options.
Niv is specifically when you cast a spell, right?
I believe so. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at Niv? It's been a minute since Niv has really shown in Standard.
I just don't know if expansion casts the copy. Because I know the Ral out of War of the Spark didn't care, so it's...
Yeah, well, it has to. It itself is cast, right? So you're saying, are there 2 triggers potentially?
Right.
Interesting.
Because there are some things where it specifically casts the copy.
Yeah, I don't believe expansion does. Looks like it just copies it.
Yep.
And Will has taken his big turn, gotten some beats in with Niv Mizzet. And now it's going to be on Harlan to put a plan together. Step 1 looks like Uro. Gain a little life. It's wild because Harlan was ready. Harlan had the perfect answer to the Niv Mizzet on curve.
Close.
Yeah. But you see how quickly this card changes games.
So we see a Brazen Borrower hiding out in Fear's hand. That card's pretty good at ambushing.
Yeah, sneak attack time maybe. That could be the path forward for Harlan.
Well, that's a lot of counter magic in Pulliam's hand.
It doesn't feel like Harlan should get more than 1 more turn from this point.
Right. This is the turn.
Something meaningful has to happen here. Here's the attempt at Brazen Borrower. That's going to trigger Niv.
Oof.
Pulliam unfortunately drew Wilderness Reclamation. Would have liked to have that a little bit earlier, but still has options here.
I think he'll find a way to power through.
Yeah, it's a good chance. Here's Thassa's intervention. X equals 3, meaning you pay 6 or else. Also going to have some Niv action from that. Growth Spiral in response. That triggers. Plenty of cards headed Pulliam's way. Thassa's Intervention is a cool Magic card.
Oh, that's just a fact.
Lots of respect for that one. Now the turn passes back to Harlan. Looking for a spicy meatball off the top. Oof. That's going to get a handshake, and that means Will Pulliam takes down the match.
The what?
Well, he did also take down, why did I forget the word now? What's